Bill Delahunt.
I thank the chairman. You know, Mr. Cochran, you're drawing comparisons here. Let me suggest this as a distinction. And I'm not familiar with the facts of your case, but what your client did, I'm sure, had an impact, but it was a limited impact. Is that a fair statement?
In what regards?
Well, in terms of its consequences.
I'm sorry, sir, if I could get more clarification.
Okay, well, let me suggest this. What distinguishes, in my opinion, the Libby case is that if one accepts the verdict and the testimony at the trial, one can conclude that this is really not about Ambassador Wilson. It's really not even about his spouse. But it's about influencing the decision to go to war. And I would suggest that that has a special burden on the perception of justice and the gravity of what has occurred in terms of this commutation. Because I think that we can agree that the activities of the administration to discredit Ambassador Wilson was maybe not necessarily ad hominem, but to influence both American public opinion and members of Congress in terms of the authorization to go to war. What could be more severe? What could be more grave? With all due respect to your client. In the case of your client, Mr. Cochran, it wasn't about whether members of this committee and members of this House would make a decision to go to war. And I have no doubt that many in Congress were convinced to vote for the resolution because of the statement by the President at the State of the Union address. It had an impact on me. But let me put this to Ambassador Wilson. What impacted me was the omission by Secretary of State Powell of the reference to the Yellow Cake uranium when he made his presentation a week later before the Security Council of the United Nations. Maybe it was just simply being an old prosecutor, just an old county prosecutor in a small little place called Boston, Massachusetts. But something really smelled. Because why? Why wouldn't the Secretary of State make this a centerpiece of his argument before the international body with the eyes of the world watching him? So it did have an impact, at least on this particular Congress. Ambassador Wilson, would you care to comment?
Well, thank you, Congressman. Certainly in the months leading up to the March invasion, conquest, and occupation of Iraq, one of the centerpieces of the President's and the administration's definitely defining of the threat to American national security interests was we could not afford to wait for the smoking gun to come in the form of Russian power. Now, while the use of force authorization was passed prior to the President's State of the Union address, clearly the rhetoric up to, including, and beyond the State of the Union address included that. With respect to Mr. Powell, he later said, of course, that he discarded the E-share plan, which was just one of many plans, because it did not rise to his standards.